Hey, this is Dan here, and I'll be doing some commentary analysis on the Game 1 Royal versus OMG in the Season 3 quarterfinals for the World Championship. So, to start off this video, I want to start off in the pick ban phase. If you look at 8 of OMG's group stage matches earlier this week, you see that OMG is keen on picking a lot of Aatrox, Lee Sin, Jarvan, Ahri, Orianna, and Zyra. Going into this match, Royal must have known that because their ban was Aatrox and Orianna, and they can almost expect OMG to just rely on their comfort pick, defaulting back to the other ones that I mentioned earlier. So, in the pick ban phase, you see Royal first picking Renekton as a safe pick top lane, knowing well that both Corki and Ahri is open. And the thing about Corki and Ahri is they're both really strong picks right now. It seems like it's one of the first picks for almost any team in the World Finals right now. So what this means is, since Royal left Corki and Ahri open and not first picking it or banning it, that means that they're going to expect OMG to pick those up, and they have a plan or a countermeasure against it. So as a matter of fact, I'm willing to claim that Royal anticipated the pick order all the way up until Zyra, with the only exception of Jax being unanticipated. Because if you look at the picks, right, you see OMG with Corki, Ahri, two strong picks, and then you see their jungler picking a lot of Lee Sin. It feels like Zyra, whenever it's possible, they pick Zyra with any AD carry. The next thing I want to talk about is the lane matchup. We have Renekton versus Jax as top laners, Ahri versus Vladimir as mid, Jarvan versus Lee Sin in the jungle, and Annie plus Kate versus Zyra and Corki in the AD support role. So Renekton generally beats Jax. Vladimir breaks even with Ahri. Generally throughout the game, Jarvan and Lee Sin is more about utility for each other's team, and Annie plus Kate beats Zyra and Corki. So what happened in this game specifically is, since there's two losing lanes and two that breaks even, what OMG did was they actually lane swap, have Jax 1v2, so Renekton has to 1v2. That way, each team has a losing lane on top and on bottom, then mid and jungle breaks even. What I want to do now is take a look at the clips of the major plays throughout the game and analyze it, and explain how the plays that one team made swung it in favor of one team over the other. Let's take a look at this first team fight. Up until this point, Royal is leading the game by about 2,000 gold. They're doing Dragon, and a team fight's about to break out. A couple important things to note before this team fight starts. First off, Royal is choked into the Dragon Pit, while OMG can fan out on the outside. Second thing is, Royal's major cooldowns are down. There's no flash from Annie, so she can't flash Tibbers' stun for the engage. Dominus Renekton's ultimate is also down, which means that he's not going to have the extra hit point and rage to go in there and tank and deal damage. And finally, Caitlyn's on the other side of the Dragon Wall without her ultimate, and Annie wastes her stun on Lee Sin. In a team fight where Royal relies heavy on good engagement and is not in a good position, especially with their major abilities on cooldown, versus OMG, who relies on picking people off and has all that space to avoid the AoE damage, naturally OMG is going to come out ahead in this fight. Before we move on to the next clip, I just want to re-emphasize how clutch and important it was for Lee Sin to go in there and bait that Annie stun so she couldn't follow up the Vlad ult. Before we move on to this next team fight, I want to explain a little bit more about the state of this game. After the last Dragon fight, OMG was able to snowball the game in a game where OMG has superior poke, pick, roam, and split pushing potential, and not to mention they have a much better late game. Royal knows that they have to group up and have to make plays happen right now. This next team fight right here is a great demonstration of how good Royal is at team fighting and initiating. Despite being behind and engaging near the enemy's turret, Royal was able to find an opening and land a 3-man flash Tibber stun into a 3-man Hemoplague and just deal a lot of damage and really giving them the edge despite being weaker at this point in the game. So by being able to read the flow of the game, knowing that they had to force OMG to group up, and finding that great team fight and executing it and playing it out with great mechanics, Royal was able to make this comeback play, which put them back in the game. This fight right here is actually the most important fight in this game, Royal versus OMG, because what's happening right now is Jax is pushing bottom lane, and nobody on Royal can stop him. Royal knows that there are 4 players from OMG nearby, and they want to force a 5v4 teamfight because this is when they can win. So they bait Baron to have OMG clump up, and Vladimir actually flashes over the wall, 3-man Hemoplague, followed up by Jarvan onto Corki as he's Valkyring and locks him back in, forcing him to flash out, and the Hemoplague and Ignite from Vladimir finishes him off. The reason why this teamfight is so important for Royal is because at this point in the game, OMG is quite a bit ahead of Royal. What OMG is looking to do is just split push and take objectives, take towers, and really just force Royal to move around the map. And the perfect answer to it was what Royal did. They forced OMG to come and stop Baron, made that team fight happen, won that team fight, take Baron. Even with inhibitor down, Royal was able to either farm that creep wave and wait for the inhibitor to respawn, or push down it and force OMG to group up again. Because keep in mind, OMG's team comp is good at split pushing and picking people off. Even this last team fight, OMG is really not behind. The only real advantage that Royal has over OMG is the Baron buff. And that's exactly why Royal is pushing. They're trying to take full advantage of this Baron buff and not really let OMG get back into that position where Jax can roam into lane, split push, and take down another inhibitor. Let me walk you through this last team fight. It starts off with Annie flash tibbering Ahri, but she reacts too fast and she actually flashes that, so Royal couldn't give her. OMG counters with a Zyra grasping root onto Renekton, and OMG at this point is looking to give him. Jax jumps in to counter strike, and Ahri actually preemptively spirit rushes to close the gap and charm orb deception, while in the back you don't actually see it, but Lee Sin actually ward jumps and is looking for that Dragon Rage to kick Renekton deeper into OMG's base. Unfortunately, the Jax counter strike was a little bit late, and Renekton's able to slice and dice out, so the stun didn't really lock him down, so the orb, the dash, and the charm from Ahri's on cooldown, and Lee Sin is in the middle of 4 to 5 people right now, and he's unable to land that kickoff. So just from that whomped play, it put OMG in a very bad position because they burnt so many major cooldowns. Here again, from the missed counter engage from OMG, it puts Zyra and Jax a little too far forward, so Vladimir actually goes up, Hemoplagues both of them, drops Ignite, and chunks Zyra very low. Then the Caitlyn ult comes off, and it's actually aimed at Ahri, but Ahri is using Zyra as a body block, which is a really bad idea. With that bad engage and most of OMG's major abilities on cooldown, their back is against the wall. So even when Lee Sin is able to land a Dragon's Rage onto Uzi, knocking up 3 of Royal's member, there's no real damage to follow that up because Ahri's Spirit Rush is on cooldown and Corki is zoned by Jarvan. So now Royal is just going to keep on pushing this, and it's a pretty much free inhibitor. And what they're going to do is most of OMG's members are dead, so they're going to look to end this. So with 4 up, Baron buff still active, and that life still on Uzi, they're all relatively getting topped off. And if anyone else on OMG is picked off, the game is pretty much over.
Here comes Big Pomelo, they're on to the Nexus, but can they finish the Nexus? Corki goes down, Ahri goes down, only Zyra left to defend. This is going to be game number 1, going over to Royal Club.
They were so excited, they were falling out of their chairs by the end of that one, and what an insane ending. We knew Royal Club and OMG would fight like crazy. We knew Royal had that window in the game before Renekton got outscaled by Jax. They rushed the Baron, they traded